Okay, welcome in. I'm going to be reviewing Monday's action from the NHL. As you can see on your screen, the big headline from last night was Stamkos Sabres' pretty emotional return to Tampa. They had a nice little tribute for him. It was really nice, and you could tell he was really taken in by the fans and the appreciation that he had for them over his tenure with the Lightning. So it was bound to be emotional. I'm sure there probably still are some fans that are bitter about him leaving, but it's business, and unfortunately, it is what it is. So I will dive into that game when I get to it. But there were 8 games in total from Monday night. So starting in Buffalo, as the Sabres played host to the Florida Panthers. So two teams in the Atlantic Division, duking it out for 2 points. So in the first period, Jesper Boqvist would get his second goal of the season, opening up the scoring from Lundell and Luosterainen, 11 minutes and 1 second of the first frame. Sam Reinhart would get the Panthers their second goal of the game, his 7th of the season, from Barkov and Verhaeghe, 11:56 of the first period. Heading into the second period, it was 2-0 in favor of the Panthers. In the second, Jason Zucker with the Sabres on the board, getting his second goal of the season, a power play marker from Thompson and Peterka, 10:45 of the second frame, a power play goal to note. Rasmus Dahlin, the captain, would get his first goal of the year from Owen Power, 12:37 of that same frame. So just less than 2 minutes after Zucker scored, Dahlin would tie it up. Carter Verhaeghe would break the tie, getting his second goal of the year from Tkachuk and Bennett, 16:44 of the second frame. So heading into the third period, the Panthers had a 3-2 lead. In the third, Sam Bennett would increase the lead to 4-2, getting a power play marker, his 8th of the year, assisted by Nate Schmidt, 14:35 of the third period, increasing the lead to 4-2. A minute and 8 seconds after Bennett scored, Barkov would increase the lead to 5-2, getting his first goal of the year from Reinhart and Forsling. So 5-2 would be the final score in favor of the Panthers. All right, now we're off to Columbus as the Blue Jackets played host to the Edmonton Oilers. Spoiler alert, a big upset to say the least, and McDavid did get injured as well, so that definitely played a factor into the outcome of the game. So in the first period, Sean Monahan would open up the scoring, getting his 4th goal of the year from Marchenko and Werenski, a power play marker, giving the Blue Jackets a 1-0 lead. Adam Fantilli would make it 2-0, getting his 3rd goal, assisted by Sillinger, 10:44 of the same period. Speaking of Cole Sillinger, he'd get on the goal scorer sheet himself, getting his 2nd goal of the year unassisted, 14:32 of the first period. The Blue Jackets had a 3-0 lead heading into the second period. Just the one goal to report, and that was Mathieu Olivier. He would get his 4th goal of the year from James Van Riemsdyk, 7 minutes and 4 seconds of the second frame. So the Blue Jackets had a 4-goal lead heading into the third. Michael Pythia, I believe, would get his first National Hockey League goal from Fantilli and Sillinger, 15:15 of the third, giving the Jackets a 5-0 lead. Just a minute and roughly 30 seconds after that, or just under 30 seconds after that, Monahan would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 5th of the year, from Chinnikov and Marchenko, 16:39 of the third period. The Oilers would get a late power play goal, getting their 1st goal of the game from Matthias Ekholm, his 2nd of the season from Nurse and Corey Perry. But at that point, it really made no difference. All it did was just break the shutout for Elvis Merzlikins. So yeah, the Blue Jackets would not hang on. They would win big, 6-1. So the game that I just talked about at the start of the video had the Tampa Bay Lightning playing host to the Nashville Predators. In the first period, Braden Point would give the Lightning their 1st goal of the game, his 6th of the season from Jake Gensel, just over 9 minutes into that period. Mitchell Chaffee would score with 36 seconds remaining, giving the Lightning a 2-0 lead. For Chaffee, that would be his 3rd goal of the season from Braden Point. So heading into the second period, the Lightning had a 2-0 lead. In the second frame, Ryan O'Reilly would get the Nashville their 1st goal of the game, his 3rd of the year, a power play marker from Marchessault and Stamkos. So pretty fitting how Stamkos got a point in his return to Tampa Bay. Gustav Nyquist would tie the game up with a minute and 20 seconds remaining. For Nyquist, that would be his 3rd goal of the year from Stamkos and Brady Shea. So he had a pretty big impact to say in his return to Tampa. So he would finish with 2 assists on the game. There was no scoring in the third. We would need overtime to settle this one. and Nick Paul would get the game-winning goal, his third of the year, assisted by Jake Gensel. So the Lightning would hang on a 3-2 lead, win, I should say, in overtime. The Winnipeg Jets played host to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Heading into this game, the Jets were still unbeaten, and the Leafs were trying to break that at the time. So in the first period, John Tavares would open the scoring, getting his third goal of the year from Pacioretty and Jake McCabe, 11:56 of the first frame. Late in the first, with 2 minutes and 13 seconds to go, William Nylander would get his sixth goal of the year from Max Pacioretty. So the Leafs had a 2-0 lead heading into the second period. In the second period, just under a minute, 56 seconds to be exact, Matthew Knies would increase the lead to 3-0. For Knies, that would be his fifth goal of the year from Matthews and Marner. Morgan Rielly would increase the lead to 4-0, 3:25 of the same frame from Nylander and Max Pacioretty. So the Leafs had a 4-0 lead at that point. Kyle Connor would finally get the Jets on the board, his seventh of the season, a power play marker from Scheifele and Morrissey, 6:19 of the second period. He would score again, getting his second goal of the game, his eighth of the year, another power play goal from Morrissey and Velarde, 11:25 of the second period. John Tavares would increase the lead to 5-2, getting his second goal of the game, his fourth of the year from Ekman Larsson and Nylander, 17:53 of the second period. I apologize. So heading into the third period, the Leafs had a 5-2 lead. In the third, Mark Scheifele would cut the deficit to 5-3, getting his sixth goal of the year, assisted by Connor and Morrissey, 7:36 of the third frame. Gabriel Velarde would make it 5-4, getting his second goal of the season from Connor and Ehlers, 16:13 of the third period. The Jets would pull the goalie, but unfortunately it did not work, as John Tavares would strike, getting the empty net goal. That would be his third goal of the game, a hat trick, his fifth of the season, assisted by Chris Tanev. So the Leafs would finally break the Jets' perfect season and win in Winnipeg. The Colorado Avalanche played host to the Chicago Blackhawks. In the first period, Philip Kurashev would get the Blackhawks their first goal of the game. For Philip, that'd be his second goal of the season, a power play marker, assisted by Vlasic, 8:47 of the first period. Casey Middlestat would tie the game up, getting his sixth goal of the year from Logan O'Connor and Malinsky, 10:16 of the first. Lucas Reichel would get his first goal of the year less than a minute after Middlestat scored, breaking the tie. For Reichel, that'd be his first goal of the year, like I just finished saying, assisted by Craig Smith. Ryan Donato would increase the lead to 3-1. For Donato, that'd be his fourth goal of the year from Dickinson and Murphy, 16:56 of the second frame. Nathan McKinnon would cut into that lead, getting his fifth of the year from Makar and Georgiev, a power play marker with just 43 seconds to go in the second period. I do apologize. So heading into the third period, the Blackhawks were hanging on to a 3-2 lead. In the third period, very late, the Avalanche would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, as Ryan Donato would score his fifth goal of the season, unassisted, getting an empty net goal, and then they still had the goalie pulled, and Ilya Mikheyev would get an empty net goal himself. He did play for Vancouver last year, so this is his first goal as a member of the Blackhawks, assisted by Donato and Dickinson. And that goal happened with just 19 seconds remaining. So Chicago would go into Colorado and pull off a bit of an upset, 5-2. The San Jose Sharks played host to the Utah Hockey Club. So the Sharks were still winless heading into this game, and Utah was just Utah. They're doing better than I honestly expected. In the first period, Dylan Guenther would open up the scoring, getting his sixth goal of the year from Clayton Keller, 11 minutes into the first. Matthias Maccelli would get his first goal of the season from Ian Cole and Nick Schmaltz, 16:24 of the same frame. So the Utah Hockey Club had a 2-0 lead heading into this. Fabian Zerlin would get the Sharks their first goal of the game, his fourth of the year, assisted by Gushin and Thurn, 9:12 of the second period. Matthias Maccelli would get his second goal of the game from Cole and Kolechinov, Chinook, if I said that name correctly, 10:38 of the second frame. So at that point, Utah had a 3-1 lead. Mikhail Sergachev would get his first goal as a member of the Utah Hockey Club after being traded from Tampa to Utah in the offseason, and he would be assisted by Kolya Chinook and Logan Cooley with just 24 seconds to go in the second period. So heading into the third, Utah had a 4-1 lead. Fabian Zetterlund would cut the deficit in half, his fifth goal of the year from Granlund and Wallman, 15:28 of the third. Speaking of Granlund, he would score less than 30 seconds after that, getting his fifth goal of the year from Wallman and Ekblad, making it 4-3. With just under roughly 240 or so to go, Tyler Toffoli would tie the game up, getting his fifth goal of the year from Wallman and Wenberg. So they got 3 goals in less than 2 minutes, which is pretty wild. So the game would need to go to overtime, and Alexander Wenberg would get the game-winning goal, his first goal as a member of the Sharks, a power play marker from Granlund and Toffoli. So the Sharks finally would get their first win of the 2024-25 campaign. So a lot of firsts, to say the least, in this. The Jets lost their first game. The Sharks won their first game. The Vancouver Canucks played host to the Carolina Hurricanes, who were continuing their road trip. Their Western road trip, I should say. So William Carrier, who signed in the offseason with the Hurricanes, formerly with the Vegas Golden Knights, would get his first goal as a member of the Hurricanes, assisted by Blake and Drury just over 5 minutes into the first period. Brock Besser would tie the game up just about 2 minutes after that, getting his fifth goal of the year from Miller and Quinn Hughes, 7:17 of the first. Martin Necas would give the Hurricanes a 2-1 lead with 4.5 minutes to go. For Necas, that'd be his fourth of the season from Kotkaniemi and Robinson. So heading into the second period, the Hurricanes had a 2-1 lead. In the second period, just a 1 goal to report. Jack Roslovic would get his fourth of the year from Burns and Svechnikov at minute 53 of that period. So the Hurricanes had a 3-1 lead heading into the third period. In the third, the captain, Quinn Hughes, would get his second goal of the year from Besser and JT Miller, 7:56 of the frame, making it 3-2. Pius Sutter would score with just over 3 minutes remaining, getting his second of the year from Sprong and Höglander. So the Canucks tied the game up at 3. We would need overtime to settle this one, and just under a minute into the overtime frame, Sebastian Aho would get the game-winning goal. I believe that was the second game-winning goal because he scored against the Oilers, I believe, when they played in Edmonton, assisted by Shane Gothenburg and Necas. So despite the fact that they blew a 3-1 lead, they would actually overcome this and win in overtime. And the last game took place in Las Vegas as the Vegas Golden Knights played host to the Calgary Flames. In the first period, just a 1 goal to report. Alex Pietrangelo will get his first goal of the season from Holtz and Carlson, just over 6 minutes into the opening period. Mark Stone will get the lone goal in the second, just over 3 minutes into that frame. For Stone, that'll be his fifth goal of the year, assisted by Eichel. In the third, Keegan Kolster would increase the lead to 3-0, getting his third goal of the year, assisted by Schwint and Nick Waugh, 2:19 of the third. He would score a second goal with roughly 6 minutes to go, getting his fourth of the year, assisted by Nick Waugh. And speaking of Nick Waugh, he'd get on the goal scorer sheet himself of the year from Kolster and Schwint. So Kolster and Waugh just seemed to play very well together. They both assisted on each other's goals. So that would be the final score, 5-0 in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. They would shut out the Calgary Flames. Now, as usual, I'll take a look at the standings through the wild card, that is. So Florida is still in first place in the Atlantic with a record of 7-3-1. They have 15 points. Tampa is now in second place of that division with a record of 6-3-0. They have 12 points themselves. The Leafs, after the win, they are 5-4-1. They have 11 points. Those are the top 3 teams as we speak in the Atlantic Division. In the Metropolitan Division, the Devils are still hanging on to first place. They have a record of 6-4-2. They have 14 points. The Rangers are 6-1-1. They have 13 points, while the Hurricanes are 6-2-0. They have 12 points. So 3 teams are really separated by 2 points. The top 2 teams in the wild card, the first team is the Washington Capitals. They are 5-2-0. They have 10 points. The Columbus Blue Jackets, after their huge win, they are 4-3-1. They have 9 points so far. And here are the rest of the standings for the Eastern Conference. So Detroit is 4-4-1. They have 9 points, as do the Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins. Buffalo, after the loss, they jump down from being in the top 3 of that division to now being in 6th place of the wild card race. But it's not really anybody's game. I mean, there's still plenty of season left. They are 4-5-1. They have 9 points. Ottawa is 4-4-0. They have 8 points. The New York Islanders are 3-3-2. They also have 8 points. Pittsburgh is 3-6-1. They have 7 points. And at the bottom are the Philadelphia Flyers with a 2-6-1 record. They have 5 points so far on the season. Over in the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets, despite the fact they lost their first game of the season, they are still sitting first in the Central Division with a record of 8-1-0. They have 16 points. The Dallas Stars are 7-2-0. They have 14 points. And the Minnesota Wild finish off the top 3. They have 5 wins, 1 loss, and 2 overtime shootout losses for 12 points. In the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights are on top of that division. They are 7-2-1 for 15 points. The Kings are 5-2-2 for 12 points. And the Vancouver Canucks are 4-1-3. They have 11 points. So even though they lost in overtime, they're still in the top 3 of that Pacific Division. The 2 wildcard teams are the Calgary Flames with a record of 5-3-1. They have 11 points. And the Blues are 5-4-0. They have 10 points. And the rest of the standings, the Colorado Avalanche are 5-5-0. They have 10 points. Utah is 4-4-2. They have 10 points. Seattle is 4-4-1. They have 9 points. Edmonton, after the loss, they are 4-5-1. They have 9 points as well. Anaheim is 3-4-1. They have 7 points. Nashville, despite the overtime loss, they are 3-5-1. They have 7 points. They're only 3 points behind a wild card spot, so there's really no panic. Chicago is 3-6-1. They also have 7 points. And the Sharks finally got their first win of the season after 10 games. They are 1-7-2. They have 4 points. Still at the bottom of the league. Not really surprising, though. They are definitely in a rebuild, to say the least. All right, that's going to take care of Monday's recap from the NHL season. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.